Imagine a scenario where satellites are the targets and missiles are the weapons. It might sound like a scene from a sci-fi movie, but on January 11th, 2007, it became a chilling reality. As China launched an SC-19 ballistic missile that aimed for the heavens, but had its sights set on a defunct weather satellite instead. The result? A cosmic explosion that shattered the silence of outer space and created a deadly rain of debris. But why would anyone want to start a battle among the stars? As we delve into the depths of space warfare, one thing becomes clear. Space warfare won't work, and here's why. First, let's rewind to that fateful day and the echoes it left in the void. This occurrence was the first of its kind since 1985, when the United States used a missile launched from an aircraft to take down one of its own satellites. The Chinese experiment stood as a pivotal moment in the world of outer space, indicating the renewed pursuit of space control and the emergence of a new threat: anti-satellite weaponry. American policymakers, who watched with concern, recognized two important findings from the forceful destruction of Fengyun 1C. Firstly, American satellites were found to be vulnerable to attacks from a significant foreign competitor. Secondly, in a setting where clear rules and regulations were absent, a situation of unrestricted actions prevailed. The 2007 test underscored the need for outer space arms control due to its urgent nature. It highlighted that unregulated space required stronger rules to avert potential disasters. Despite this, progress in outer space arms control has been limited since China's test. China and Russia introduced the PPWT a year later, but it remains stalled due to US opposition. Despite its shortcomings, the PPWT is a key option due to the lack of better alternatives. Creating comprehensive arms control for outer space is extremely challenging, as seen with the PPWT's fate. Despite the threat from ASAT weapons, effective agreements to limit their spread and use remain elusive. Difficulties in defining ASATs, identifying their use, and verifying compliance make comprehensive arms control impractical. Additionally, such agreements could harm the US's competitiveness in space. Rather than pursuing broad ASAT arms control, it's wiser to focus on specific actions like banning debris-causing activities and kinetic ASAT tests. Encouraging conduct norms in space could also enhance stability and sustainability over time. For agreements to control weapons, clear definitions are crucial. Without a detailed definition of anti-satellite ASAT capabilities, global efforts to limit ASAT development and use are ineffective. Defining ASATs is complex due to diverse weapons and dual-use challenges. The strict interpretation of the PPWT's language could label almost anything as an ASAT, preventing space deployment. The various types of ASAT weaponry create a complex challenge. ASAT weapons can disable satellites in different ways, including lasers, missiles, cyber attacks, jamming, and more. The diverse range of options makes it extremely difficult to create a complete and accurate definition. Each technology operates differently and requires specific rules for control. Gaining control over these technologies is challenging due to their widespread peaceful uses. Satellites are delicate, so even slight force can disable them. This makes many innocent technologies potential weapons. For example, repair satellites can be turned into weapons. Satellites with radio antennas can disrupt other satellites' communications. This conflict between peaceful uses and security creates a dual-use problem that complicates ASAT arms control. The definition provided by the PPWT characterizes a weapon as any outer space object or its component produced or converted to eliminate, damage, or disrupt the normal functioning of objects in outer space. Looking closely at this definition, almost anything can be seen as an ASAT and banned in space. The PPWT doesn't cover ground-based ASAT weapons, highlighting its shortcomings. Formulating clear definitions remains difficult within the PPWT, and similar issues could arise in future arms control efforts. To differentiate between following the rules and breaking them, the global community needs to identify and understand objects in orbit. Trust alone is inadequate for arms control treaties. Hence, any agreement to limit weapon use must include ways to verify compliance. Currently, verifying things in outer space isn't feasible. Once something is in orbit, figuring out its true purpose is very hard. This is especially true for non-physical weapons like cyber and jamming tools, where there's no reliable way to check if rules are followed. When it comes to non-physical anti-satellite ASAT weapons, stopping their use relies solely on trust. The PPWT tries to stop signatories from placing any weapons in outer space. However, this rule lacks real power without a way to check, making it more symbolic than practical. A study like PACSAT-A shows how a four-satellite group could deduce what a satellite does, but it relies on the group's position and assumes form equals function. Issues arise. We lack on-orbit investigation tools, and form-function links aren't guaranteed. Supporters say adding weight and cost to hide ASAT weapons in orbit is too expensive. Still, making arms control based on nations' cost predictions seems illogical. Despite excellent launch monitoring, uncertainties remain. Many space weapons are on the ground, evading current monitoring. Ensuring compliance with bans on non-physical weapons like cyber or jamming is impossible without proper tools. Moreover, attribution is tricky in ASAT arms control. Some ASAT attacks can be traced, but others are harder. Non-physical threats make it tough to link actions to specific nations. Imagine a situation where a laser targets a satellite. Figuring out who's behind it is tough. In space, things break without warning. Unless the satellite has sensors detecting unusual events, like sudden heat spikes or sensor overload, telling apart accidental malfunctions from deliberate laser attacks is impossible. Even if these sensors exist, there's no guarantee the laser's user can be pinpointed to a specific nation. Linking jamming attacks to their source faces similar challenges. Satellites rely on a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum for communication. With many objects in space, they often unintentionally interfere with each other's signals, making it tough to know if jamming is intentional or not. In this complex setup, creating ways to verify and ensure compliance gets complicated. Recent cyber attacks have shown how tough it is to trace, understand, and even identify cyber breaches. The Russian SolarWinds hack was hard to attribute accurately. Similar problems could hinder setting up effective arms control for cyber ASAT weapons. Global participation is vital for effective ASAT arms control, yet major space-capable rivals of the US see having ASAT weapons as vital. This hampers global agreement on an anti-ASAT treaty, essential for successful arms control. The US relies on space assets for crucial activities, but this reliance is seen as a weakness by rivals who lack comparable military power. Shared vulnerability fosters stability. China and Russia, rivals to the US, view ASATs as a means to exploit American weakness. Their proposed PPWT showcases arms control willingness while retaining space weapon options, leveling the field against the US. This strategic value hinders ASAT limits. Though crucial for secure space, ASAT arms control has challenges. It guides, not stops, arms races, lacking comprehensiveness. States might develop ASATs outside agreements. Banning kinetic ASATs might shift focus to potent non-kinetic options. Agreements may drive hidden ASAT tech, worsening the issue. Constraints could lead to covert ASAT integration, heightening dual use and space militarization concerns. Worse still, ASAT arms control agreements might hurt American space assets' competitiveness. Such pacts could reduce funding for improving defenses against ASAT threats. To maintain US space strength, protective measures are crucial. But if arms control seems to lower risks, convincing decision-makers of satellite investments becomes tough. Amid the difficulties of comprehensive ASAT arms control, two practical steps could enhance space sustainability and safety. Firstly, following Michael Crippon's suggestion, the global community should consider a halt on kinetic ASAT tests that create space debris, increasing risks for all. These tests are well suited for arms control. They're easy to identify, define, monitor, verify, and attribute. Also, they could gain international agreements. Tests generating debris complicate operations for all space users, opposing common interests. Secondly, it's crucial for nations to work on forming behavior norms for outer space. These norms are more powerful than rigid arms control deals. Norms grow naturally as actions repeat, making them effective. Audrey Schaffer explains, norms can highlight abnormal behavior, giving a warning about and defense against space dangers. To utilize norms, the US must acknowledge its presence and establish non-binding global norms. This would initiate international discussions on acceptable behavior. Positive strides were made with the United Nations Guidelines for Space Sustainability. The UN's first committee approved creating a group for space military activity rules, showcasing commitment to bolstering space security and regulation. ASAT weapons raise valid concerns globally, and space could benefit from stronger rules. Yet the solution isn't ASAT arms control. It's wiser for the US and the world to disregard the ineffective PPWT. Instead, focusing on a viable ban on clear, verifiable kinetic ASAT tests and establishing broad space behavior norms is more constructive. Comprehensive ASAT arms control might seem appealing politically, but in practice, it faces substantial limitations. So do you think space warfare can work? Let us know in the comments. With that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more.